So your gym is stable and profitable. What now? No one used to ask that question, but it's common as more gym owners build thriving businesses through mentorship. Two Brains Tinker program. It's the thing you need to take the next step in your journey. I'm Mike Workington. This is Two Brain Radio. I have a tinker with me today. His name is Chris Plentus. He owns Kana Fitness in Pennsylvania. He just got back from a recent tinker meetup in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's going to tell you how the program supports him and the other entrepreneurs that he got to hang out with. First, what is a tinker? When you start a gym, you're a founder. When you're working to get it running properly, you're a farmer. When it's running profitably without your constant oversight, you're probably a tinker. You can take a quiz in the show notes to find out exactly what stage you're at. At the tinker stage, there's a lot of options for you. You might want to open a second location or expand your current one. You might want to buy or rent commercial real estate, invest in crypto, start a completely different business. The point is you have options in front of you, and who knows what you're going to pursue. You might need help figuring that out. Tinkers in general are looking to grow their wealth, expand their influence, and become better leaders, both for their staff and their local communities. In the Two Brain Tinker program, these gym owners learn how to reach the next level of entrepreneurship through mentorship and peer support. Get to hang out with people like Chris. Now, just like a person doesn't have to be fit to join your gym, you do not have to be a super wealthy tycoon to join the Tinker program. You just have to be past the point where your gym isn't struggling and eating all of your time. You need to pay yourself about $100,000 a year. And if you do, Tinker is for you. Our growth program is designed to get you to the 100K level. And our Tinker program takes you further. We're pursuing $1 million in net worth. And if you want to talk to someone about this program on the phone or on Zoom, book a call through the link in the show notes and you can do it. Now, I have a tinker who's going to tell us from ground level what the program did for him, including helping him get to $1 million of net worth. Chris from Pennsylvania, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Happy to be here.
I am pumped to ask some questions about this. We saw each other at the summit in Chicago earlier this year, and I saw that you got an award for $1 million net worth. I guess that's a big accomplishment, but I want to know what, in addition to that, did the Tinker program help you accomplish? Like, we're talking your really big deals as an entrepreneur, not just a gym owner.
Yeah, so the goal of growth is to get to about $100,000 net owner benefit. And the idea behind that is just simply to be profitable in the gym and live a relatively comfortable lifestyle. So that's obviously going to vary depending on geography and cost of living, but we're using that as a round target. The goal of Tinker is to achieve financial independence. And this is going to really depend on what people are aiming to do. But I asked the Tinkers, knowing that I was going to come on this podcast, what they got out of Tinker. And a lot of this surrounded around freedom and choice. So when gym owners are tied to their business, they feel like it's a ball and chain. They have to be there to coach the 5:30 a.m. class, or they have to be there all day to coach classes or even PT. They don't have the freedom and the freedom of choice. So when you can get the gym to a place where either you're not doing much in the business or you're only really doing the things you actually enjoy doing, because a lot of people get into the fitness industry who do enjoy coaching, who do really love working with people and coaching them. So I think a misconception about Tinker is that you have to be completely removed from the business. That's not true. You have to get it to the point where you've developed systems and you have the choice to do the things that you want to do with your time and with your day. So that's really what Tinker is all about. When you get to the Tinker stage, there are so many resources available to figure out what the next steps are. So it can be a lot of information at first. People are getting into real estate, they're getting into crypto, they're getting into second, third, fourth locations. We had a Tinker at one point who just bought his sixth location. So there's a lot of information in there, and I feel like one of the first things that people have to do is figure out what it is they want. For a lot of people, a lot of gym owners, they've had their head down in the ground. They've been grinding away for years and years, building their business up. And so when you can actually come up for a breath of fresh air, it actually takes some time to reorient yourself and to figure out what it is that you actually want for yourself. Once you know that, then there are so many resources within the Tinker group to actually go ahead and go do that. So for instance, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got into the Tinker group, but at some point I realized I did want some real estate. I wanted a short-term rental. So I used the resources within the Tinker group and a different mastermind to figure out the best way to start a short-term rental, acquire the property, and then get it up and running. And I've done that. And that's something that without the Tinker group, I probably wouldn't have even done. Or if I did do it, it'd be, 5-10 years down the road.
At this level, when you get to a level of a success where like you're not grinding every day in your gym, you can actually step back for a second and maybe start to think what's next. It can be overwhelming, right? Because, and I think this is when you need mentorship almost more than ever, because the stakes are higher, right? Like when you start thinking about what you can do next, there are so many options for you, and you can make a ton of mistakes if you're not careful. I started as a gym owner. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm just a gym owner, right? I don't know anything about real estate. I don't know anything about crypto. I don't know anything about starting a new beverage company, which one of our tinkers did. However, there are some options and mentorship programs available that will help me figure that out. And so it sounds like you didn't have a background in like acquiring rental properties, but you figured out how to do that, and away you go. So mentorship is important at this stage, even if you're a successful gym owner.
Yeah, and it's also being surrounded around like-minded people. I think a lot of people, when they get into Two Brain and they get into ramp up and then growth, they're surprised and pleasantly surprised by the types of people that they're interacting with in the Facebook group and certainly at Summit. And it's just this really nice breath of fresh air compared to especially some of the other Facebook groups out there where people are negative and they're talking about really trivial things, where, within the Two Brain ecosphere, we can really talk about higher level things. Well, Tinker is that, just times 10. So if you really enjoy the idea of figuring out what's next, and you also thrive around being around like-minded people, for me especially, and then certainly for a lot of the other tinkers that I asked, being around other like-minded people who want to grow, who want to challenge themselves, who want to diversify in terms of their revenue streams, who want to build a legacy, that's really what a lot of us are doing in the Tinker group. It's certainly talking about gym stuff. So, I think another myth about Tinker is that we don't talk about gym stuff. It's only about real estate, or it's only about other, financial assets. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes we are talking about growing our gyms and troubles within the gym, because we are handling that as well. But we're also talking about things like the real estate, the crypto, the tax strategies, how to, become more resilient in terms of our, portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been privileged to do some media at some Tinker events, and it's been incredible to see the amount of interesting things people are doing and stuff I never would have thought of. And as gym owners saying, hey, yeah, I started a recovery beverage company. Hey, I'm into short-term rentals. I'm doing whole life insurance, or overfunded whole life insurance, whatever
Yep.
Sean Ryder is up to. Like, it's incredible stuff that people are doing. And I'm watching these entrepreneurs who are quote unquote just gym owners like me diversifying into really interesting entrepreneurs who are now becoming great leaders, not just in the fitness community, but in their local communities as a whole. I understand that you also, like you talked about solidifying your business, you moved locations, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So one of the very first things that I got out of Tinker was having the connection and also having the permission to reach out to other Tinkers for what they were doing. So we just did a podcast about Founders Club. And when I was moving my location from, we were staying on the same campus, but from one building to another, having just gotten into Tinker, I knew that Jay Cohen had also just moved his place and had done a Founders Club 2.0. So it gave me permission, being in that tighter knit group. At the time, I think I joined, there were maybe only 25 of us or 30. And at this point, there's about 70 of us. So at the time, I absolutely felt comfortable reaching out to Jay and being like, hey, can we get on a call to talk about this thing, this Founders Club 2.0? And then I modified it for myself to make it my own thing. But having the permission to reach out to each other and having this network of people that you can go to talk about problems, to do things that you might not otherwise feel permission to do, is absolutely one of the biggest benefits of being in the group.
It's peer support, right? It's people at your level and slightly above your level who are pulling you forward, right? And then you've got mentorship. We have the Tinker program brings in, Jeff Smith is the leader. Chris Cooper speaks a lot. John Franklin, our marketing head, but then also outside experts who come in and teach incredible stuff. One of the things you mentioned that I want to highlight is tax strategy and estate planning and legacy building. When you're mopping the floors at your gym, you don't think about that stuff because you're probably not really paying yourself. At least I wasn't. Once you start actually making some money and having some assets and having a family and having some time to step back and think about it, it's then important to start thinking about, how do I protect this? How do I pay exactly the amount of tax that I owe and not a penny more? How do I, create benefits, long-term benefits for my family, for my community? How do I give back? And that's one of the really cool things about a wealth platform. Chris Cooper is passionate about this. Build your wealth platform first, support yourself, acquire more than you need, give some away. And there's some cool stories that we're going to get into about that. So tell me,
Yep.
we've talked a little bit about you. What have you got? The last Tinker meetup, what are some of the really cool things that are going on in that group? Like, tell me what's bubbling up to the surface and what balloons are flying up in the air.
Yeah, let me first go over kind of the format of Tinker, because I think
Please,
a
yeah,
lot of
let's do it.
people, it would be good for them to know, because it is different than growth. So in growth, the whole idea here is that you have a very cadence structure. You have calls with your mentor every month. There are obviously modules that you can access, and there's the Facebook group, which is super valuable. In the Tinker group, there are weekly calls. So we do a weekly Zoom. We also have a monthly, what we call board. So you're actually in a smaller group, because as the group has grown bigger, we would still want to maintain the intimate nature of being in a small group, being able to get your voice heard, talk about things. So there are monthly boards. There's obviously the Tinker Only Facebook group. We also formed our own book club. So every month we pick a business book or something personal development wise
What are you
to
reading
read,
right now?
and then we meet.
I gotta know what you're reading right now.
We just read The Gap in the Gain,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great mindset book. And then for the next one, we're going to read Built to Sell.
Perfect. Yeah,
So
keep
that's
going.
the next one coming up.
Nice.
And then the biggest difference is that we do quarterly meetups. So these are huge, because
In person.
all of us are coming. Yep, in person meetups. They're not required, but they're highly encouraged, and most Tinkers try to make it. We were just in Charlotte, and I want to say out of the 70 total Tinkers, I think there were about 55 of us down there, which is amazing to meet people.
I saw the picture. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's just so great. I mean, just like Summit, it's so great to meet people in person. It's the same energy that you just don't get over Zoom. So, we're doing sessions during the day. So we have people like Kathy from the Go Giver give a talk. We had Bonnie, who is within the Tinker group, also give a talk. We do some 90-day sprint planning, which I'll talk about in a minute. But then you have a lot of time to network, and this is not the local chamber of commerce type networking where, you feel awkward and stiff and trying to introduce yourself, because everybody there already knows each other for the most part. And we're also coming from very similar backgrounds. It's just, we have nuanced problems that we want to troubleshoot and solve for each other. Right. So, we'll go work. We went to work out at Brian Strum's gym, and then we go out to eat and hang out. And it's just a really, really good time to get to know each other. And, I'll say at a lot of networking events, you're going to talk about like what you do and kind of the stiff, like very surface level business stuff. But at these meetups, we kind of skip that, because we've already talked about it either on Zoom, or we already know each other from the Facebook group and whatever. So we just dive into the deep stuff. We talk about legacy. We talk about what it is we want to be known for. We talk about some of these nuanced things like, tax strategy, even though that might sound boring. It's just one of those things where
It's not boring when it works.
Well, I just heard this, it's a simple concept, but like, if you work a standard W-2 and let's say you get taxed, where 50% of your money goes towards taxes. I mean, that's a high rate, but let's just say that, you go buy something for $1, you actually have to earn $2 just to buy that thing that costs $1 because of all the taxes going out. Right. So yeah, this is one of those things that we're trying to focus on. But the meetups are super valuable, from just getting to know each other, feeling like you can let your guard down and be yourself and be your own person. And then the other super valuable thing that I found, and that a lot of people find, is that we do these 90-day sprints. So it's taking this idea, and this comes largely from Todd Herman and other writers, but it's this idea of taking a 90-day focus, setting goals, and then going and doing those goals. So for me, setting up the Airbnb, that was on several 90-day sprints, because it just stretched over the course of several, 90-day or quarters. I set up a nonprofit within the gym in order to serve at-risk youth in our area. That's something that I got at a Tinker in terms of permission to do, and also, a time horizon to give myself in order to get it done. And then for me personally, I also want to become a mentor, which, having the freedom from the gym and time to dedicate towards that has also helped. So, in terms of my wins, I would say those are my three biggest. But having the time to do it, having the network of people to reach out to, and then, having the resources available to you in the Tinker Toolkit, super, super valuable.
Yeah, so it's not just, I could see an entrepreneurial group very easily devolve into a how big is your bank account conversation, or a lot of like, measuring this and stacking up that, and, a little posturing. I haven't got that sense in the Tinker group. What I get the sense is it's a bunch of peers who are all very close to the same level, who are more than willing to help each other out. I might be a little bit
Yep.
ahead on this thing. I'm going to help you out, Chris. And I don't have a clue how to do rental properties. You might have some tips for me. And the cool part that you mentioned is a lot of these people have come up together through our growth group, so they know each other pretty well. But that's not to say that outside people won't come up to speed very quickly, because it's a very welcoming group. And it's, again, not a group where it's trying to get as far ahead of the pack. It's a group where the pack is pulling each other forward as a giant group of gym owners kind of leading the way. Have I got that right?
100%. One of the things that you usually talk about when you do meet a fellow gym owner, let's say not within the two brain world, you're talking about how many members you have, and possibly top line revenue, and all the shallow metrics, right? We kind of skip all that, and we just get to the important things, which is family, fitness, freedom, finance, future, and faith. So those are the 6 F's that we cover. And one of the things that I didn't expect, but that has absolutely kind of been a focus, since a lot of us are parents within that group, is this idea of family, and this idea of creating a life that you want. And it does go back to that perfect day activity that we do in growth, and this idea of, what is your perfect day? How do you spend your time? What are you actually doing things for? Like, why are you running a gym? To help people. Okay, great. But, why do you feel like you need to be there 12 hours a day? And people start realizing, okay, in growth, I need to get myself out of this, because, this is not sustainable. I'm going to reach burnout. And also I have this family that I need to be home for, right? But even beyond that, how can you enhance your life in order to better serve the community and also your family? So one of the things that I got out of one of our 90-day sprints, David Allen is a tinker in there, and he was talking about doing dates with his kids. So they spend one-on-one time, very specific one-on-one time with each of his kids, which I then took and had in my 90-day sprints to do, because I realized, sure, we're going to spend time as a family, the 4 of us, but it's pretty rare to just be one-on-one and have really quality time with my kids. So that's something that I consciously am doing because of this tinker group and of getting ideas from other tinkers.
So it's like a lifestyle program, right? Like if you think about, growth as a business program for gym owners, this is like a business program tinker level, but it's also lifestyle, because you're talking about those 6 F's that you talked about. Like, why are you doing this? Family, spending time with your family. I've talked to so many tinkers who said, I was that grinding gym owner. I literally didn't get home till 9 o'clock at night. I left the house at 4:30 in the morning. I worked 80-hour weeks. I never saw my family. How horrible is that? At the tinker level, you start to realize, okay, I've got that behind me. Now I can start focusing on what I want and need to do to be, a good human being. And for a lot of tinkers, it's that freedom, like you said, where I can choose to coach a little bit. I can choose to work at my gym, or I can choose to just delegate that to my staff and take my kid to the park. And there's some really cool stuff that people are able to do. What else has inspired you in that group? Who else? Tell me some, pump some tires. Who's got some cool stuff going on there?
Yeah, so I mean, it really is a diverse group in the sense of, you got like Sean Ryder, who you can go to for any whole life, infinite banking concept talk. You got, Nick, who's got a couple locations and he wants to grow his locations. Tommy,
that's Nick Bloom, the tire guy.
So we got Nick Bloom, the tire guy who owns a tire business, but then you also got Nick Habich, down in Florida, right? Yep. Who just went through the hurricane and has to deal with, obviously the hurricane stuff, running 2 locations, and also finding a new spot for his second location, right? So, a lot of these issues, that come up definitely are related to gym related things, but it's also it's just at a higher level, right? Mm-hmm. Then you got Tommy Alfanito, who is opening a distillery, and that's a whole new world of permits and, trying to open up still a hospitality business, because I do consider the gym industry to be in hospitality somewhat, but, that is a whole new world there.
So a distillery, that's amazing.
I mean, it seems random, but when you think about it, it still has to do with serving people. It still has to do with systems. It still has to do with all of the. Right now, he's going through the fit out process and realizing, all of the ups and downs with that. And so when you strip away, the actual fitness aspect, a lot of what he's doing is very similar to setting up a gym. And then the things that, he has brought to the Tinker Group as it relates to the gym are things like hiring a general manager, getting systems in place so that he literally doesn't have to walk into his gym at all, because yes, he does have to spend time on that. Plus he has twins, right? You've got,
Well, he's not the only beverage guy out there that we've got, eh?
no, you got Josh Grinnell, right, who set up Cowbell, and it took him 3 years to do that. And that all stemmed from my knowledge, because he was in Tinker well before I was. But from my knowledge, the Tinker Group helped, spur him to do that. There are several of us who are doing short-term rental work, and that's been a huge help to be around other people who are doing the same thing.
Commercial real estate comes up too, I see regularly.
Commercial real estate, yep. So a number of people are buying buildings, or they're asking their landlord to buy buildings. I would say among all of this, the overall theme that I see, beyond just the freedom and the choice of things, is also the mindset, right? Because I feel like when people join growth, they're suddenly elevated in terms of who they are as a business owner, and suddenly they realize the importance of systems, and they realize the importance of removing them from roles, not because they hate them. I mean, of course, if you hate them, you should remove yourself, but mostly from a system standpoint. If you get hit by a bus, how is the business going to run? And so you take that mindset and growth, and then when you elevate it and you're among people who are searching for the next thing, the mindset of going after things that seemed impossible, or doing things that seem crazy, or not even possible because you don't know what you don't know, being around that discussion is amazing. Because there's a lot of tinkers right now who are going to their landlord and they're asking, hey, can I buy this building? And they're coming back with, like this is going to be a $2 million building. This is going to be a $3 million building. Like, a lot of people, if they're in ramp up or growth, might think, well, I don't have $2 million. But then when you bring it to the group, and then we come up with these creative financing options and all of these things that you just don't know. And Jeff has, so much experience and is so valuable in talking, especially about real estate, that suddenly you realize, oh, like I can go to the bank and ask for this, or I can go to these lenders and ask for this. And, terms like hard money and, 5+ different ways of acquiring a down payment without you having to actually pay out any money. A lot of this stuff people just don't know. And so being in a group where they've been there, done that, is immensely valuable in terms of building up your net worth and building your legacy.
It's like the 4-minute mile, and Chris Cooper's used this analogy. Roger Bannister runs it, and then I can't remember how long it took, but it was not very long before someone else ran another sub 4-minute mile, even though no one in history was able to do it. But it's like, it's possible. And there's a mental leap that happens there. And that leap happens, when you get out of the muck of getting your gym running properly, when it's stable, you can step back for a second, take a look, you have some space. And that's when you need to be surrounded by other people. The best thing you can do if you want to be a millionaire is to hang out with millionaires. What do millionaires do? How do you do that? You learn, right? How did you know that you were ready for the Tinker program? Because I know there's a lot of people that'll be in that mindset just below it, where they're like, I can't do this. I can't even get my head around like buying a property, $2 million. I don't understand. How did you know you were ready?
I wanted to be in it. I had the FOMO of seeing the group in New York, meeting Todd Herman. Yeah. And I was like, I want to be that. I want to do that. And so I worked with my mentor, Greg Strau, who, systematically, methodically, each month would work on a new thing. And, I think a lot of us who join Tinker would say that we probably join a little bit sooner than we feel like we should.
It's imposter syndrome creeping in.
Yeah. It's a combination of imposter syndrome, like, oh my gosh, like I'm in this room of really advanced people, when actually they're not that much more advanced. Like everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and everybody has something to contribute. just to quickly go back to like random things that people are doing, like Kevin Neglia, who is in the Tinker Group, and he opened a pet store. Like he bought a pet store,
the
right? So like,
thing, right?
yeah. So, yeah. So number one, imposter syndrome. And then number two, it makes you level up. Like if you have the goal of getting into Tinker, it's going to make you do the things in the gym to get it systemized and get you out of the day to day so that you can actually spend time to go through the Tinker toolkit, to be on the calls. So I will block off these times that we're doing calls because I think it's really important. And figuring out what it is that you want, because that's a question that I don't think a lot of gym owners actually ask themselves. Like, what do you want? Besides just having a gym, right? Like, why do you want the gym? Well, I want to help people. Okay. What do you want beyond that? Right? Do you want to be able to go away for a full month and not have any contact with the gym? Like, you got to set it up in a way that you can do that. Do you want to pay for your kids' college or whatever it is that you want to pay for, weddings, just lifestyle wise, what do you want? Okay, great. We need to figure out a way to do that. The gym might be the answer and we build that up, but oftentimes it's not the only answer, right? And so, whether it's because we're typically entrepreneurs who are ready, willing, able to do new things and just go and experiment. I don't know if that's whether that's the chicken or the egg, but a lot of us are getting into other things, either because of our entrepreneurial spirit or because we see the bigger picture. We see the North Star of wanting to build that legacy and get to really, Tinker is not even the last stage. It's the thief stage where you can then have that legacy and build upon it and, do even more good for your greater community.
So listeners, if you're on the fence right now, the best thing you can do is book a call to talk about it. Link in the show notes.
Yep.
You talk to someone and that person that you speak to will explain what you need to do to be in Tinker and give you some feedback, answer all your questions, and let you know if this program is a good fit for you. Interestingly enough, we mentioned on imposter syndrome. That shows up all the time. I'm not ready for this. I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as everyone else. Bonnie Skinner, psychotherapist, she's a member of the group. She's actually spoken about this exact thing. And the point that I'm making here is that there are not just gym owners in this group. There's Bonnie, who's a psychotherapist, doesn't own a gym. Nick Bloom, tire franchises across the country of the US, I believe. There are people in there who are benefiting from the knowledge of entrepreneurs, not just gym owners. So it certainly is a group that has a lot of gym owners, but people are branching out and other people are coming in. And what happens is you have this giant cohesive snowball effect of people who know quite a bit about a lot of stuff. And so if I say wanted to open, a therapy business of some sort, Bonnie Skinner is probably going to have some tips for me, right? And same thing, if I wanted to get
David Allen is opening a ninja gym.
There you go. Right?
Andrew Romeo is doing a personal training studio to, as a second location, but he has a functional fitness gym as his first location. Mm-hmm.
Bringing a product to market. We've got Josh Grinnell. We've got like distilleries. We've got things happening where people can figure out how to do stuff. So the overall message here is like, this is a group of talented people who are going in one direction and they're going to suck you along with them, which is pretty cool. What's next for you? Look in the crystal ball. What are you inspired to do right now? You've done a couple of really cool things in the last little bit. What are you looking at now? What are you inspired to do?
Yep. So right now, we have our board for our nonprofit and we just had our open house. So we're going to get kids into our youth program. And we're right now going out to our Boys and Girls Club to do fitness classes with them. So that's all off the ground. Short-term rentals is doing well. Systems are going. If there's anything I learned, it's that there are so many skills running a gym that can apply to other businesses, like setting up systems. So, and understanding the importance of them. So I spend
staff, all that stuff.
Yep. I spend minimal time on the Airbnb. And so effective hourly rate is sky high on that.
Beautiful.
So next, I think it's probably going to be something in real estate, maybe another short-term rental. If I had to pick, and I'm still open to doing something like a second location, but I might go the Andrew Romeo route or others who have done a more focus on a personal training studio or something, a little more simple in terms of revenue stream, but high end in terms of higher ticket offers.
But you got options, and how cool is it? I want to point out that you're able, from this position of strength, you can now give back. So you're building, this nonprofit, which gets kids involved and stuff. And like, let's not minimize this. a child who starts a fitness program, and maybe a disadvantaged child who couldn't have afforded to do that in the first place, that is a life-changing thing. So if you talk about legacy, vision, and faith and all the things that are important to people, that must feel pretty good for you to be able to give back.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I always had as an idea, but getting into the Tinker program made it almost mandatory that I do it because I put it out there in the universe. So, for people who have like read The Secret or, talk about, just manifesting, what it is that you want, all the kind of woo-woo stuff. It's true. Like if you put it out there and you especially to a group that's going to hold you accountable, between the 90-day sprints and the weekly calls and people checking in on you to see how X and Y are doing, well, you're going to go do it because you don't want to, look like a goof when you come to the next meetup and people are asking like, hey, how's that nonprofit doing that you said you were going to set up? And then you got nothing to show for it. Right. So it's one of those things where you're going to follow through on things and you're going to get things done because of the group, the power of the group.
Well, that's really that's what it is. It's like the manifesting things. People hear that and it's kind of sickens some of us, but Chris Cooper will be, will know what I'm talking about if he's listening. But to manifest something and then actually take the steps to do it, that is the link, right? Where you actually surround yourself with people who will teach you how to do it. You'll commit to it. You'll have some accountability. That's not manifesting. That's manifesting and taking action. And that's when really cool stuff happens.
Yes, action is the only thing that matters.
Yep. That's exactly it. Saying it doesn't matter. Saying it and then taking action is what matters. And that's what Tinker Program is there for. Now, people out here are listening and they're thinking, again, I don't know if this is for me. I'm maybe on the fence. What would you say to someone who's thinking about the Tinker Program right now?
Definitely talk with your mentor, to just talk things out. They'll give you a pretty good gauge on, if they think you're ready for it. Again, you do not have to be completely removed 100% from your business. There are plenty of Tinkers who still coach, who do personal training, who do nutrition coaching because they love it, but they choose to do it. Right? That's the difference. And then they have the systems so that they can go away because our meetups are in the middle of the week. They're Thursday, Friday, and a lot of us fly in Wednesday, or even Tuesday. So, to take 4 days off from the gym for some people is unfathomable. So if that's the case, then you got to build the systems and you got to get the gym up running to the point where you can get away, and feel good about what you're leaving behind. And then, book a call, with Jeff or Chris or Coop, because you'll also get some information from them. You'll get a sense from them as to whether you should be in or not. And it's not, again, it's not ready in the sense of, do you have to be paying yourself $100,000 exactly? No. But should you, if you're just scraping by, is Tinker right for you? Probably not, right? Growth is meant for you to get to the point where you can provide for your lifestyle comfortably. But then taking that next step in Tinker is to really put rocket fuel on getting that net worth up and then building that legacy.
It's a beautiful thing. Listeners, book a call through the show notes. You can absolutely find out if this program is right for you. And I want to thank you, Chris, for sharing it. I'm going to check back in with you and we'll find out what you've built next, because every time I talk to a Tinker, there's some incredible stuff that comes out of it. And it's amazing to see what quote unquote just gym owners are actually accomplishing now that they've got some free time. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thanks, Mike.
That was Chris Plentus on Two Brain Radio. Please hit subscribe on your way out.